And welcome into Chamber Amplified, Josh Rabe from CentraComm as we talk about cybersecurity and what you need to do to protect your business. Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Glad to be here and talk on very important subjects, cybersecurity and cyber insurance as well.
So it seems like it's been an eventful start to 2026. Anecdotally, I know I've had a lot of conversations with people. There are bank scams out there, there's cybersecurity scams. Everybody's getting calls from unknown numbers all the time. Is it anecdotal, or are we seeing an uptick in perhaps cybersecurity threats?
I know it might seem impossible, but yes, there is an uptick. It is definitely increasing. I know everybody's always bludgeoned with spam, phishing emails, you name it. But yes, it's actually getting worse.
Oh, that's comforting. We're off to a great start in 2026. Is there a reason why we're seeing more of it that you've heard of, or is it just something that's happening?
I mean, there's a couple of reasons, but the major reason I would say is AI. AI is lowering the bar of entry for the bad actors that are trying to scam other people, trying to make that money in nefarious ways. AI is allowing what they're able to do to be more skilled than typically seen in the past by an entry level hacker or bad actor, if you will.
And I guess that makes sense. We've been talking about using AI at your business here at the Chamber for the last several years, and people are improving their efficiency on it. That was actually a question I was going to ask you: is AI driving it? But when you put it like that, it makes a lot of sense. It's making us more efficient. Why wouldn't it make bad actors more efficient?
Yep, and that's one of the things that people need to keep in the back of their mind is, the same tools and products that we have available to us to protect environments are the same tools and products that that the bad actors are constantly using and practicing on to hone their skills and look for those exploits, which AI is also helping with.
Unfortunately, there's a flip side to every coin.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned phishing, so we can start there. Is that one of the more common ones that we're seeing in this uptick? I know it seems like it's all across the board, but phishing seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, phishing and just focusing on the end user is where a majority of the efforts are in compromising businesses.
So let's talk about the different types of phishing, because these can be incredibly easy to spot, but it feels like they are getting increasingly harder to deal with because of what we talked about, AI making it a little bit easier to put those together. I know in the last month or so, I've seen several emails I get like, oh, hey, here's this, I need you to take a look at this PDF, whatever it is. And it will come from an email address that I'm familiar with, but there's always maybe something that just seems a little bit off where, all right, maybe I'm not going to open that PDF, but are PDFs a big place of entry for people who are doing these scams?
Yeah, so you can embed files in PDFs, you can embed files in web pages. So really, all they want you to do is take that first action, which is a lot of times why you end up you get that gut feeling just because the emails that you're reading, either it's a small mistake or it's just the overall feeling it's giving you. If they're trying to put urgency to whatever the email is talking about, a lot of times it's oh, hey, you owe money.
Yeah.
To some organization or to some government agency, body, so on and so forth. And with that, obviously, if somebody's saying, hey, you owe money here, you're going to have penalties or fines or whatever the case may be. It's a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't want that to happen. I don't want a bad mark on my credit report, whatever the case may be. I don't want the business to have, especially in smaller towns, you don't want your business to have a bad name, not paying their debts and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the only one that I feel like is easy to pick out is every once in a while I'll see it. I'll get an email from someone like, hey, need you to take a look at this. And then the attachment is actually another email file. It looks like it came from Outlook or something like that, where it's like, open this to open up a separate email. And I'm thinking, has there anybody ever sent an attachment that way in the last 10 years? I don't want to give scammers an idea on something they could stop, but that seems like the easiest one to pick out. The others are pretty tough.
Yeah. And again, as I mentioned, AI is just making it so easy to have your base level of those phishing emails to look very realistic. You can go to AI and say, I need an email template and then give it exactly how you want it to look, and it'll push it out for you. It'll make it for you. And a lot of times, how it worked in the past is most obvious indicator that it's a phishing email or a malicious email was those little mistakes that are, as people that operate and work with the English language every day, little nuances in the language that people that use it know that are being missed by people that are in other organizations or other countries in the world that are targeting these organizations.
So this means that your staff needs to be coached up on these issues, and they're always evolving. But really, that's probably the most cost-effective way to try and stop it, is to make sure that your staff is prepared for these types of attacks. What do you suggest when you're talking? I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast before with other guests, that they're not just going for marathon. They're going for marathon on down the line to our smallest mom and pop shop in Findlay. Everybody's at risk for this, no matter how many employees you have. But what are the conversations that business should be having with their staff to try and get that front line really on board?
Awareness is huge. Just being aware that no matter how big the company is, it's not a matter of if you'll be targeted. It's a matter of when. As you touched on, the bad actors, they don't care if they're getting into Marathon's network or one of the other small businesses in Findlay. They just care that they're able to get around the defenses that are in front of them, and whatever their objective is, they can accomplish it.
So when we all started getting the internet way back when, seems like we've had it forever now, we had the antivirus software going on, and that's certainly evolved, and we've got whatever's running in the background on here, Sentinel or something like that. How good are those programs at, if you click the wrong link in an email that's a phishing thing, are those programs good at catching them, average? Are they doing much of anything when it comes to those phishing links?
So yeah, I mean, it depends completely on the tool and how it's set up, but a lot of like your proof points and your email security tools, those are the ones that are catching a lot of the phishing emails, and especially since email security has definitely been beefed up in the past couple of years, especially with DKIM and DMARC and SPF records. With all that, you're authenticating that you actually sent it from, in this case, CentraComm's domain. We sent the email, we signed it, and are authenticating that it came directly from us. Now, there's still ways to abuse it, and there's still workarounds, and there always will be, because nothing is 100% secure. Sorry to anybody that's listening that may have expected 100% security, but it's not possible.
That's unfortunate, but it is the world that we live in, and I think we all understand it. I think a lot of it, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that when the internet, when we first got computers and the internet, it didn't work all that smoothly, and so that would stand out to you if something wasn't put together right. But now everything just sort of works when it comes to computers and the internet. So you just mindlessly click on things because you're like, yeah, this goes to where I wanted to go. This is how the internet works. It's almost like we're too comfortable with how computers and the internet have evolved.
Yeah, and especially when you start getting into the topics like privacy and confidentiality. Yeah, we've become so used to the convenience of the internet and how it is always on, like you said, until it isn't. And then when it isn't, there's a big commotion and it gets fixed really quick.
Let's talk a little bit more about protecting businesses. Like we said, we want to train you want to have that conversation with your staff. You want to make sure that you have up-to-date software. I do think training and getting used to what phishing email can look. Have you guys ever done any sort of penetration testing where you said you work on the behalf of a client to see who would fall for a phishing email, although it's come from CentraComm, and you guys are actually helping train staff that way?
Yeah, so one of the functions of my role is that I do work with client organizations and manage their email security, and a big part of that is maintaining a lot of the email security platforms. Also do security awareness training, so like your proof points and your know befores. Those organizations, they have both functionalities under one umbrella, so it's lumped together a lot of times. that way you can focus on the end users who are the main targets of the bad actors. With that though, yes, I do send out quite a bit of phishing emails and have quite a bit of campaigns going on. It's interesting to see what gets reported to me and, hey, is this phishing or is this a bad email? And, I'm like, that one's not me. I didn't do that one.
That's a lot of pressure to have to be the authenticator of being if it's legit or not.
Yeah, getting pretty quick and good at it though, so that's definitely a benefit of the position.
So unfortunately, and we've seen the headlines that you can be as prepared as you want to be. You can do all the training, you can have the software, but if one person in your organization clicks the wrong link and the software doesn't catch it, it can lead to some very bad things. What are the consequences of not being diligent when it comes to this issue? Vigilant is probably the word I was looking for.
So the consequences are going to be entirely dependent on how well you've built out the defense in depth behind, because your end user is going to be exposed to risk and threats no matter what. It's just the nature of being the end user. You're always going to be targeted. You're always going to be a target. But being able to, use that training, but also have the extra defenses in behind the user. So making sure that they have limited access, only access to the things that they need. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have somebody that's in my position in engineering, I have no need to access an organization's business financial records. So I shouldn't have access to those.
Yeah, absolutely. That and I forget what the term is, but the access only is needed is a huge thing.
Yeah, least privilege.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. I knew
zero trust or the
set straight there. We have seen, unfortunately, things like ransomware happen when all of the fail safes. If somebody ignores a fail safe or they just deal with a particularly talented scammer, I suppose. Ransomware, I suppose, is one of the bigger issues that people deal with. But what are the other threats? Being locked out of your information and having it held for ransom is awful, but I imagine data breaches are could be just as costly if they come to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way I like to look at it is, there's a black market for a lot of things. There's a black market for data as well. And cyber criminals, that's where they live and breathe and operate day to day. So yeah, there's a huge market for it. And a lot of the information that would be uncovered in a non-ransomware attack could later be turned and sold to other bad actors, selling that intel on a target, which is how a lot of the supply chain attacks become so effective.
So unfortunately, this has become such an issue that people need protection. Cyber insurance is a product that has been developed to help offer some protection to businesses in this area. So let's talk a little bit about cyber protection. What is it? What is it not?
For cyber insurance?
Yes.
So cyber insurance is not a catch-all for your organization to say, we don't need to worry about security, we have insurance. That's not how it works. What it is, though, is it is a driving force in security maturity. It used to be, you'd just have to have one or two things and you qualify and be good for cyber insurance policy. Nowadays, you're almost going through a audit of types before you're allowed to be insured. So that is driving a lot of maturity and a lot of those processes being built out in these organizations to heighten the base level of security that organizations have.
Which that makes a lot of sense, because if you just said, yeah, I bought a cyber insurance policy and there were no checks on the other side, that's almost a recipe to get reckless with your cybersecurity practices. So having those boxes that you have to check just to be eligible for it, I think makes sense when you look at it that way.
Yeah. And if you're not doing the minimum requirements, then you're just making yourself even more of a liability. And then that liability is obviously transferred to your insurance company.
So let's wrap up by just looking at red flags. Let's say that you've got the cyber insurance in place, you've done the training, you've got the correct software that you need. You're still going to get things that pop up that are red flags. What are things that immediately trigger alarm bells to you if you get a certain type of email or phone call or what have you? What should people think about first that should really trip that alarm?
First thing is, are you expecting that email or any communication from that organization that is appearing to send it to you? If you can answer yes to that, the second thing I typically move on to is this email trying to get me to do something, and is it activating any sense of urgency on my end?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a sense of urgency, especially encouraging me to act immediately, that is telling me that's a red flag. And what I always encourage is that somebody uses another form of authentication on those types of requests. So if you have somebody that emails you and says, hey, you owe some money, use another form of communication. Don't just email them back and say, hey, are you actually this company? Get on the phone, call them and say, I received an email. It looks like it's from you guys. Do I have an outstanding balance or whatever the case may be? So that sense of urgency is a really big thing that often gets overlooked, because in the moment you're panicking, you're stressed out. You're not focused on the fact that you're feeling that. You're focused on what is making you feel that.
I think it's a really good piece of the puzzle. Now, if it happens and you do get that breach, what's the protocol? Do I need to, if I'm using CentraComm, do I need to get a hold of you? Do I need to call law enforcement? If money has been taken, it's ransomware, at what point do I need to notify customers? I'm sure there's a lot of protocols once there is a breach.
Yeah, so the first thing that you want to do, especially if you have cyber insurance, is notify your insurance company. Your insurance company is going to contact all of the people that need to be involved to address the breach and subsequent fallout from the breach. They're also going to involve your attorney as well and establish that client privilege over the entire situation, over the breach itself, so that nothing is getting leaked and nothing is allowed to be put out without it being vetted through the insurance and legal teams.
All good advice. If people want to have a conversation with you, Josh, and maybe walk through their own security practices and what they need to be doing, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I work with CentraComm. So just call CentraComm and ask for me, and I'll be there.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, we appreciate your time on the podcast today. Thanks for taking time out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.